Hey everybody, here I am back with the NECA game piece, the JAWS Game giant shark toy with the movable mouth, and it's reworked, repainted. I dremeled out the bottom of his jaw there, the big lumpy thing that was there. I couldn't go too far, it would have gone through the plastic. And I straightened his gills, took a Dremel tool and straightened the gills out, painted black in there. See, it looks like they're like open plastic gills. Just gives him a smoother face and neck. See that line? The lines are much more Bruce-like. Puttied the dorsal there where it looks a little smoother. Thanks to a very interesting poster. I couldn't completely sand this line off. That's a mold line. This is a piece of dark plastic molded to a piece of light plastic, and the way they mesh, it's very hard to get rid of that line. I've sanded and blended and done stuff. I'm going to have to come back probably with more putty and do more. My colors, by the way, are all Vallejo paints. This is aged white. This is neutral gray mixed with raw umber and black in varying degrees. I don't know my formula, but I know that it's got brown in it. But I painted a lateral line because sharks have what's called a lateral line. It goes all the way up the caudal keel and up the tail. And it's part of their nervous system, but that's the lateral line, that line there. Not that mold, which is at the wrong end of the gills. And because they molded it, there's a flaw in the shape of the gills. So, again, reiterating, you see the cleanness now of the head, the gills, all the cool Bruce lumpy parts, which, by the way, kudos whoever sculpted this for NECA. You got all the bumps. I mean, you got the bumps dead on. You've even got the subtle bumps and things that are there in photographs. You got these guys right. So I don't know the name of the sculptor, but my hat's off to you. I really appreciate what you did. But I really had to work on this front end. This is where the real work is. I repainted the eye. If you notice, I got this from the part where he's eating Quint. His eye is looking this way a little bit. He's looking at Quint when he was eating him. Anyway, okay, you notice he's not as gummy. He's not as gummy. He doesn't have this great, big, protruding gum jaw there. Bruce never really did, not to my knowledge. So, to go as far as I did, which I would call insane, because it was scary, and there was the distinct possibility I was going to ruin it. So, understand, don't attempt it unless you absolutely are sure you can take the chance with your $60 and not blow it. But here's what I did. I carved this out by taking a razor knife and going right in the line, following it all the way around, cutting through the rubber, and inside, removing the inside also, prying it out. Since it's rubber, you could pull these pieces down and cut the inside and remove it from the inside, and you have this great big rubber jaw with rubber teeth. I then trimmed a lot of that foregum off, right? You can kind of see what I'm talking about. And all the teeth they're rubber. They're all rubber. They're bendable, and they're trimmable. You have to have a really sharp razor knife and take your time at an angle. And since it was rubber and the piece was out, I could bend it and hold it and get the other teeth away from my blade, and I could carve them. And I whittled them down, sharpened them down, and fixed each tooth by tooth. And on the inside of his mouth, you see that row of teeth in the back there. See those? There's no longer two rows sticking straight down right next to each other because they looked a little knobby and because it wasn't accurate to the movie. The teeth in the back row are laying flat more like that. What those teeth are made of are shavings from the jaw piece I removed. I'd carve and there'd be these little thin shaved pieces. So I just made little triangles and super glued them in place, one at a time. Lined them up on both sides. Yes, it was a nightmare. Yes, it was scary. I then glued the jaw piece back in place. I kind of had to build up a shelf inside. If I tell you how I built the shelf up, you're gonna laugh. I used tissue paper, like Kleenex, and super glue, which is a noxious mix. It's like, think of it as advanced paper mache 101. I would roll it up kind of and stick it up in there and soak it with super glue, and it hardens and of course puts a lot of fumes out. I do not recommend that unless you're outside or have very good ventilation. It's nasty and it's noxious. But it's a quick, fast way to make a shelf to then add this jaw piece back on. It's all out of sight. You can't see it. It looked messy and nasty and gummy and ridiculous. But when you glue the rubber shelf back in there, you can see the edges of it. It covers it. You can't see the goopy part I made. And the other cool part is it allows you to glue all these teeth closer to the edge, which is how Bruce's mouth was. If you don't believe me, look at Bruce on the back of the orca when he's jumped on the boat and he's chewing at the stuff that's floating around, the flotsam and stuff there, and he's chewing, or when he's after Quint. Almost every one of his teeth are visible on the top row and almost on the bottom. And the bottom, I added a little bit of nib to the tongue, because the tongue looked sharp-edged and kind of mechanical. I didn't like that, so I just softened it. And I did the same thing. I carved off this rubber piece all the way around. And the reason I had to do it on the bottom was to make this trap jaw work. They actually shifted it one tooth over so that the teeth would mesh in between the teeth. Well, that's wrong for Bruce. They're lined up. If you study shark teeth, there's four pieces to their jaw. Four. There's a one half, one, two, three, four quarters, and there's a joint in the middle. That's what that little weird line is right there. It's a join for the jawbone. So there are two big teeth, two big teeth, two big teeth, two big teeth, and then all the other teeth have a sort of a pattern. Look at shark jaws to see how this works. I'm not going to sit here and teach you shark jaws, but Bruce more or less followed that. The guys that designed Bruce tried to get, accurate gums and accurate teeth and accurate jawbone. So I had to shift this over, and with one of my shaved pieces, I made an extra tooth because that tooth wasn't there. It's a little teeny tooth allowing these three, which are on the hump. The hump is this part right in the middle. They were on the hump, and this one is in the middle, so that it can go right there. And if you look at your toy, if you get your toy, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And you'll actually notice that the bottom jaw is off, and it's shifted to the right a little, the shark's right. But when you take it out and remount it, let's get him locked open there, you have to build up in the back of the mouth these two areas. And I did that with putty also and covered all that plasticky looking, cheesiness that was there. It's a toy, so they don't care to hide the plastic. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm not offended. But I wanted it to look more organic. I wanted it to look more real. I wanted it to look more like Bruce does in the movie. So that's what I did. I spent a great deal of time. And then, of course, remount this one. You don't have to build up my weird putty thing. My mache. Let's call it super mache. You could just glue this right back down and super glue it. I start in the middle and glue each piece as I need. And I pulled them out until they sort of meshed with the top jaw. And if you note, it looks more like Bruce's mouth. It's all there. That's what gets me. If NECA hadn't been making a game piece or a toy, this thing could have been 100% accurate. They could have done it. They knew enough to do it right. They also knew enough to do it wrong. So, correcting it, I don't feel any guilt about it. You know, it's something that I've spent 50 years studying because I've been a Jaws fan since I was 14. And I love Bruce and I love the way he looks. He's not an accurate, real looking shark. He's a movie shark and he's a prop. And I love the way he's made and I love his mouth. And I always like, I like what's called the wide mouth, the flat mouth. It's real wide and all the teeth show. And that's what I get with this figure. You know, NECA give us the wide mouth Bruce. Now, you might go back and look at my video of my Grail, which is the Stan Arts Bruce model that's open on one side. He doesn't have the wide mouth. He's a narrower mouth, which is fine. That's okay. Bruce had a narrower mouth at times. And let me show you something interesting. Look at a gill there while I'm reaching. Don't fall, Bruce. This is a very tenuous base, people. If you do this, it's a balancing act. Okay, let me show you something about Bruce physics. When his mouth, he was a big solid piece of plastic and metal. He wasn't fleshy, hence the jowls. That had to hide that jaw, the corner. Bruce was a tube. When he opened his mouth, it did this number to the whole body, its front end of the body. It flexed it. When he closed his mouth, right, it flexed this way. And that's how you get the wide mouth. Now, you have to make a decision if you're going to make a hinged mouth on a toy, whether you're going to do the narrow mouth, which is usually open mouth Bruce. Look at your Bruces that have wide open mouths and look at the shape of his head. It's narrow. It's a narrow tube. If it's like this, it's more conducive to closing the mouth. So you can fake it with the movable jaw, right? And it looks like Bruce when he's jumped on the orca, right? It's like the end of the movie. It's not open mouth attacking, you know, every other model Bruce. It's end of the movie on the orca Bruce. It's that one. And yeah, sorry about the shaky camera, but it's the best I can do. So that's the Bruce you get with a more flat mouth. Well, I love that look. So I now have a wide mouth Bruce and a narrow mouth Bruce. And any of you that know the differences or notice the differences, that's what that is. And it takes a lot to understand it. I mean, you have to play with a lot of dowels making sharks when you're 14, 15, 16 years old, like I did. I used to make sharks out of these toilet paper rolls because I saw Bruce in that. And I won't lie to you, I talked to Robert Matty, the man that actually made this mechanical shark work, twice in 1978. And 2 30-minute conversations. First one was just hey, how are you? I'm a kid that loves Jaws, blah, blah, blah. The second one, the callback was, how did you do it? How did you make it work? Well, that was when he explained to me that it's just a big tube. This is from the horse's mouth, people. This is from Robert Matty, who explained how this technique works. That's how they made Bruce work. You're hearing directly from Robert Matty now, not me. I'm conveying a message from the man that made this shark functional. And that's how it worked. And even the Jaws 2 shark had to do that. Right, this sort of reversing thing. So when you're looking at Bruce, you'll probably never look at him quite the same way again. When he's closed his mouth, it's real wide, you know. And when he opens his mouth for real, not like this toy, when he really opens it wide, it should narrow. This pull should narrow and flex. I like it big and wide myself. Thank you, NECA. Thank you for answering the call of a desire that's been there for a long time, not just from myself, but from others. And thank you for the work you did. I want to dedicate this to my friend Sean, who's trying to do this to his shark. I want to dedicate it to Stan Arts, David Stan, who put so much time in his model. To the fine folks at NECA for all the work they did in the research and at least giving us something to Bruce out on. You could do a Brucette, which is the Jaws 2 shark, if you wanted to. I would not cry if you did that. Just a little thing. You might do that for their 50th anniversary in a few years. All right, and to all my other friends that are Jaws fans, hey, this is a cool toy. Even if you don't revise it, this thing is cool. It's worth every bit of the $60 you pay to get it. It's worth every bit of having it. It's a great anniversary piece. And hail Jaws at 50th year. 50 years of fun, 50 years of terror, 50 years of this shark. I love it. May we all have a great year. Enjoy your NECA shark.